My name is Dion Hinchcliffe, and I'll be going over the CIO perspective, my research in what CIOs will be doing in 2021 to adapt to post-pandemic, and how digital adoption platforms will connect with that story. So, one of the interesting things in my work is that unlike other types of IT, much of today's digital workplace is seen as optional. Sure, we have systems of record, but systems of engagement, how we do most of our work, 80% of our time is actually unstructured collaboration and communication to create those outcomes. And the real challenge to getting a lot of the value out of these much more powerful, newer tools is getting people to use them effectively, to adopt them. And what we've learned is that adoption is not automatic. A lot of these new systems of engagement are perceived as optional, and they default to older, more traditional legacy tools like email that just simply aren't as effective. And so there's a real chasm. And we've learned that we have to deliberately create enablement to help organizations adopt these new technologies. And when I talk to CIOs, I've talked to over 200 of them now since the pandemic began. We've seen that awareness of the category of digital adoption platforms, not digital adoption, which has always been a concern, and organizations have been tracking that for 10 to 20 years in a very detailed way. But the platforms that are designed to aid that, we now see the awareness has gone from about 5% in my CIO conversations to 19% last year in my conversations and surveys. That's a 4x growth. Where we actually see that we want that digital adoption, but now we're perceiving the solutions in the marketplace to make that happen. And the problem space is considerable. There's about 2,000 applications that run the business in a typical Fortune 500 company. I find that most people aren't aware of just how many IT solutions are used. And I've seen the high watermark of over 3,300 in some very complex financial services organizations. And only about 20% of these are newer, easier to use software as a service applications. The rest are all the other applications that we've accumulated over the years and form a great burden when we want to onboard an employee and make them effective, especially since the time that employees are with us is getting shorter and shorter. We want employees to come in, be effective, and do so rapidly. And so as we go into 2021, we see that in my latest survey, which we'll go over some data in just a moment, that the hot buttons for the CIO is cost cutting, doing more with less. So not so much IT support, not so much training, but actually, and then still having workers do more than they have in the past. So productivity is the other focus. So how can we be more effective in our work and get more out of the very expensive investments we've made in IT? The average Fortune 500 company spends $17,500 a year per worker on end user computing. So the next focus is automation, and saying, I want to help workers be more effective at automating what they're doing. And I want automated business processes that will deliver the lower cost or deliver that productivity. And then I want analytics to really help me manage all of this. I see a real emergence of this now find and fix mentality. Talent analytics, digital workplace analytics platforms are unleashing a wealth of data, and especially digital adoption platforms are instrumenting our work so that we can find where workers are experiencing friction, where they're having challenges, and unsticking them. Redesigning the solutions if necessary, providing training and support just in time across those friction points. And we see unmet needs that, as we saw in one of the previous presentations, CIOs are laser focused on digital adoption, but they're not necessarily aware of the dedicated new platforms that are aimed at solving all of those issues across the adoption spectrum. And then growth and innovation. There's a real desire for a lower risk, more confident path to digital transformation. And that's about removing obstacles from workers so they can automate and they can transform that parts of the business with technology by reducing those pain points. And collectively, we see this focus across the not just the existing portfolio, but innovation and digital transformation as well. Remote work was a large shift in the landscape for almost every organization last year, and now hybrid work, the move to that is going to be the next big shift. But we've always had this real challenge in technology as we accumulate more and more applications and experiences, which we need, and they all provide value. But the gap between what we are actually achieving, our actual performance versus our potential, continues to grow because These tools are very powerful, especially modern IT solutions have very high leverage that can provide lots of value if we're using especially some of their more advanced features, which we typically don't train our workers on at first. We're just not reaching our potential on our existing investments. And we can get so much more from it. And especially with all the changes in remote work, we're still working suboptimally, even though the results have largely been satisfactory in the transition, we can do much more. So I see that there's a new foundation for employee experience forming, and it looks roughly like this. And it's no one product or solution. It's something that most organizations are going to have to build, which is an employee experience platform that provides the hybrid and remote and in-office experience with a consistent set of analytics, with integration among systems of record and systems of engagement that will have a common architecture so that they can integrate. And it will have near the core of it an experience support with digital adoption platforms to ensure that the human element is being addressed in terms of understanding where the gaps are, in terms of helping employees learn and be able to avoid the friction points to be able to get more and use those more advanced capabilities more effectively so we get the value from IT. And all this is on top of a work from anywhere foundation where we see now employers are now increasingly satisfied if they have a platform like this, they can source workers from anywhere. And everything can be, the service and support can be more proactive, more personalized, more adaptive to the actual needs of the worker. And this is not theoretical. We see this now. Organizations are increasingly asking me, where do we situate this? And it's in some, lacking a better term, we're going to call it the employee experience platform. So let's quickly go over the CIO survey findings related to digital adoption platforms. Late last year, I asked 100 top CIOs from around the world what they're going to do in 2021. And we saw that surprisingly, budgets didn't change as much as we thought. Some lost up to 10 or 20%, but over half didn't have much of a change because they had to adapt. Technology is the tool that we've used to cope with all these challenges. And we saw that in terms of the top 5 IT budget priorities for 2021, digital transformation topped the list. And it's the digital transformation of work. That's where DAP is really focused most, and of customer experience. Our workers moved en masse and our customers moved en masse in terms of their behaviors and what they needed from us. And that has profound implications. The data also said that CIOs are looking to see results from that digital transformation in the bottom line in the first 6 months of this year, right? So there's a real desire, hunger, especially on the digital transformation of work side. I also asked how they're seeking to get more returns from what they already have in hand today from IT. And we see that automation stood head and shoulders above all others, saying, I need to take a lot of things that we're doing and automate them to get more value, to get more ROI from IT. I want to assess my portfolio and rationalize it. I want to tap into the high leverage capabilities of my existing IT solutions. I want to use tools that can maximize IT uptake and adoption. I want to be able to cross-train IT and other workers to perform more varied functions, provide just-in-time support and systematic IT performance management. We see all of these things, and I've placed a little blue dot next to the areas that digital adoption platforms can actively help out with, and that's all but 2 of these. We see that where CIOs are focused, that digital adoption in 2021 will be one of the key tools that can help them perhaps the most, and why I put it so low in that employee experience platform stack, in that it's core to so many of the things we need to do to close the gap between the human benefits and the technology benefits. They have to be aligned, and digital adoption connects those dots. So I further asked, what are the top challenges in remote work? We see that IT support has been profoundly challenged, and the tech skills of workers just lagged. And in both of those areas, we can use DAP to reduce IT support overhead by creating more skilled and trained workers, and be able to provide assistance right inside the application in many cases, and be able to skill up workers. And so these are the top concerns, again, of CIOs, can be directly addressed using digital adoption platform solutions. And I also asked what they thought would dramatically improve effectiveness and/or ROI right now. And I use that word dramatically on purpose. And we see, again, automation came up at the top of the list, more self-service IT, new systems and applications that better designed to augment the current solution, the easier ways to find underutilized assets or cost reduction opportunities. In other words, knowing which IT isn't being used. Again, if we put the lens of digital adoption on top of this, we see that those platforms can address most of these key areas. It won't help with more rigorous IT project management, maybe, but in almost all other areas where CIOs believe that they can dramatically improve IT quickly, digital adoption again fits the bill. And then I finally asked, what are the adoption expectations when they roll out new technologies? And we saw some very clear signals. Two of them, which is the second bar, we use specific guidance in our training to direct employees when to use things. And then we would use in-application tips or suggestions to provide usage cues. Again, what's interesting is that I find that IT leaders don't know to ask for digital adoption solutions, yet over and over again, they are stating a clear need in many different ways for how they can connect or address the human factors issues, the human skills, and challenges in using IT back to what they're doing to deliver value. So that was a lot of data. So let me give you the key takeaways that we really want you to understand from this research. Digital adoption platforms can assist IT in the majority of the top CIO focus areas for 2021. We clearly saw this in the data. Now, I also find that awareness is rapidly growing of the category, but it's still an insider play. As one of the previous presentations said, 80% of CIOs are focused on digital adoption, but they don't know yet about the category. And so it's still an insider play that delivers real competitive advantage. You have a 3-year window to really beat your competitors about the head and shoulders with much higher usage and effectiveness in IT. And we also see there's a large unmet gap in IT needs. There's a lot we can do to get much more value out of IT. We have thousands of applications we can tap into, and especially with the big shift to hybrid work. We're gonna have to change behavior again. And we can most easily change behavior at the point of use of these IT systems, and DAP can deliver on that quickly, we find. And so the category is now poised to become part of the core employee experience in organizations over the next 3 years. We're gonna go from that 20% awareness to it's a no-brainer, has to be part of the digital workplace. I hope you found this to be a useful perspective on how IT and DAP can get a lot more value from each other.